What's up and welcome to Champions of Lore, a show all about the kick-ass stories behind some of Idle Champion's coolest campaigns and characters. Every Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time here on twitch.tv/CNE Games or later on your favorite podcast service, B. Dave Walters and Erin and Evans talk about all the Idle Champions lore you need to know about. If you're here with us live in the chat, you can leave a question that I, Treavor Bettis, will ask them later in the show. But until then, Erin, B. Dave, take it away.
Lore that you need to know is strong. Might need to walk that back so we don't get flagged. Official sources dispute this claim.
Desperately want to know.
Well, a clip from the show is going to make it to Chris Perkins at some point. He's going to go, hold on.
Yeah. Hey, B. Dave Walters. I say words about things. Dungeons and Dragons: A Darkened Wish has officially returned Thursdays, 5 p.m. on twitch.tv/D&D. And I'm always doing places. And the high point of my week is showing up here on Monday mornings and listening to Erin laugh. That is my python. That is the Kyber crystal that fuels me the rest of the week. There it is. Mm-hmm.
I'm glad I can bring something to this stream. I don't have to, rely on thinking hard about.
I think anytime Erin doesn't know something now, she should just nervous laugh and it will just completely cover it up.
Works. It's an AoE stun. Works on me every time. I'm bang. She got me again.
Sidebar, my sisters have pointed out I have, it is really obvious when I fake laugh, or as they call it, phone with grandma laugh. So you will be able to catch me, I'm pretty sure. If it's not a genuine
It's
thing.
a class ability.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's whether your eyes don't crinkle, right? Yeah, exactly.
I think it's a pitch thing, but
Right.
I'm not sure. I'll have to ask them. I'm Erin and Evans. Sorry.
I was gonna say in my mind, it's just this super pretentious like thing now is what it is.
Oh my
But
God.
Erin, who are you? What do you do?
I'm Erin M. Evans. I am the author of the Brimstone Angels saga, which is a 6-book series set in the Forgotten Realms featuring Frida and Havilar, who are also champions in Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms. I also play Cecilia on Dungeons Scrawlers Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. Pacific on twitch.tv/Dungeons
There we go.
And for a while, I was Forgotten Realms editor, so I know stuff. But this one, I know stuff about because I wrote about it. So
There we go.
I don't have to reach quite so deep into the depths of my brain.
Also, to answer the question in the chat from Trontanian, the reason why B. Dave is the only one in uniform is because mine's in the washing machine and Erin's...
Because I'm a professional. That's why.
He's
I'm a
showing us up.
professional. Yeah.
I just thought it would be awkward if we showed up in the same outfit.
Because you would have looked much
than me.
better in it than me. Yeah, and that's
I don't
why
know.
I'm like,
I don't know.
yeah, that's
I
just
also
been the whole
pointed out-
time.
I sit so much lower that would you guys be able to tell I was wearing it? You're like, oh, Erin has a black crew neck t-shirt on. Oh,
There's a non-zero
Really?
chance that there's an Idle Champions logo on your chest right now.
right.
that
This is
Yeah.
this is the new sweater version.
is that's it.
These
New
are
Idle
actually tiny
Champions
beholder
cashmere.
eyes. It's just zoomed in real tight.
For
Mhm.
for audio listeners, B. Dave is wearing a shirt that says Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms with that awesome beholder logo on it, just in case you were wondering. But we're
That is
here
true.
not to talk about your shirt, as cool as it is. We're here to talk about some Avernus.
I mean, in an indirect way, we are still here to talk about the shirt because it's Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms. So we're not here to talk about the shirt.
Fair.
It's just this week.
fair.
Yes, it is Avernus. The last big update was that we didn't already cover was more information on Avernus. Apparently, you know what? Before I even dive too much into this, I know, Erin, Avernus has a special place in your heart, and I also know that it has a special place in your heart as well, Treavor. Because one of the first conversations we had is you guys were like super nerd deep diving into the Nine Hells.
Well, I am currently running it, so I'm almost
go.
at the end.
Avernus is one of the layers of hells that I got to depict. It
Mhm.
is, they visited the devils in my book, visit it in Fire in the Blood. It's not a vacation spot.
It also has featured Asmodeus
Yep.
featured very prominently in Dungeons
old
and Dragons:
Azzy.
The Darkened Wish. In Avernus is featuring very prominently into season 3. all the hells are currently. So I guess we're not here to talk just about Avernus. We're here to talk about the whole kit and caboodle.
Try and stop us. Try and keep us to the last outpost.
Well, you know, it's funny. I'm like, we're not here to just talk about Avernus, although the most recent update was super about Avernus.
Yeah.
So we're talking
Start there.
Yeah,
That's
like,
that's literally the entry point. So
that's true.
It's true.
Yeah, rookies only make it to the first level. Yes.
You hear that, Golden Pals? You're rookies.
Exactly. So, ooh, I made it to the first level of hell. Right. Yeah. Who among us hasn't? Yep.
I know, like that was my weekend, so
it's true. Right. Although we did talk about how tiring our weekends were, and having gone into the hells would do it. Got my soul coin, my obligatory soul coin.
Wait, where's my I got the Beetle and Grim one.
So ooh, size matters. Yeah. Yep. Shout out to my homies over at Beetle and Grim. Again, like I said, I am a professional. I can do this all day.
He's just got all of his branding shirts. Here's my Darkened Wish shirt. Here's my Beetle and Grim shirt.
You're joking. You're joking. You want to see the flexiest flex of all? Here's
God,
me on a shirt.
Shirt with your face on it.
Look at you, Smolder.
That for the record, that's what it's like being stuck in Avernus. Is just me flexing with t-shirts indefinitely.
Oh my god, I want to make that NPC now.
But yes, you guys are it's an odd thing to say, fans of the hells, I suppose. And you said you got to, which one of your stories did this feature in the most prominently, Erin?
So Avernus is in Fire in the Blood. There is a sort of side plot where there's an Erinese that sees something in the sort of succubus nests of Malbolge that implies big high-level stuff. And her brother is one of my characters, Cambion Lorcan, stashes her in Avernus. Like, do not be here. Just don't be here, and maybe it'll blow over. It doesn't, and they have to go. He gets dragged there to go get her, and then they feed a bunch of Erinese to Tiamat to get through the gate because she was still there in that edition. But yeah, so Avernus is sort of the edge of the blood war, where it touches the hells. It's a big, endless battlefield. Its leadership kind of bounces. I mean, most of the lairs, it's either like real solid or it's been bouncing for years. And so in this case, it's usually between Bel and Zariel, with Tiamat jumping in there for a little bit.
With a steel chair every once in a while. Yeah, well right now, Bel, it's Tiamat with a steel chair.
Someone please drop that.
There's your adventure prompt, folks. There you go. 8 minutes in.
Do that.
Yeah. Tiamat with a steel chair is your adventure prompt.
Oh my god.
Well, I think it's Bel recently showed up in one of our games in I'll come back to Bel in a minute because he also was recently added to Idle Champions. But I think I told you all in the game that I run, my Patreon game, Tiamat was a recurring character. She's basically like the master. Part master, part Dread Pirate Roberts, because it's a level 20 game, so I had her show up, and they were just gonna fight her, but I had her show up as the Dark Lady, and so they were just kind of traveling with this person for a while and interacting with her, and they were being really nice to her, and then she's like, "Ha, fools! I'm Tiamat," and they're like, "Hey, our friend is Tiamat." Yes,
love that.
And I think I even had one of them like roll persuasion, and she really was like, they're not afraid of me. Oh, okay. Well, I'll probably kill them all tomorrow. Let's see where this goes. And she ended up staying with him like a really long time. So in my mind, even though I know Tiamat's like the ultimate evil in most stories, like in mine, she's not.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I used her because I guess there's this, and I don't know if this is printed or where it's printed, but Ed Greenwood had mentioned in a story summit meeting that anything Tiamat eats is destroyed permanently. So like if, for instance, you have an Erinese who knows a secret and you don't want that secret to get out, you feed it to Tiamat and it's gone. Like, which is why I used her, because I think that's kind of interesting. So that's another thing. Find something and you have to feed it to Tiamat. There you go. That's my adventure hook.
There you go. Exactly. You have to like cover it in peanut butter to get it like a dog with a tail.
Also, keep in mind, she's got all those heads, so you need one thing for each head so they don't fight over it.
I really wish that I could fit Tiamat
Otherwise,
loves
she'll eat
peanut
you.
butter as a code.
I mean, yeah,
I
but
love
take out all the vowels. You
It'll
know,
look like a
and just have it
license
in there.
plate.
Yeah, people are like,
Mit to bit?
does that to hear All right.
It sounds like you have peanut butter stuck in your
Yeah.
mouth.
It is phonetic. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I personally I really like this dynamic of the shifting the shifting leadership of Avernus, because again, it was one of those behind the scenes things. You know, Dungeons and Dragons: A Darkened Wish, the comic I wrote, was supposed to be a transmedia story. I mean, it is a transmedia story, but the timing was supposed to hook in, like dovetail with when the Descent into Avernus was released. And because of the publishing, like, you know how it is, like things got weird and kind of got out of sync. But I was fortunate that I actually saw a lot of the story and plot points of the Descent into Avernus in advance. So a lot of characters in A Darkened Wish are either from Avernus or nods to the Descent into Avernus.
Cool.
And I had Zedkiel's Fall, or Zariel, sorry. Zariel, Zedkiel is one of my players in the game with Pima. Zariel's Fall, I very much used as a parallel for what is going to happen to the main character, Helene, because that is one of the tropes that I love the most. You know, Darth Vader, Arthas Menethil, anytime, you know, the chosen one who has the best of intentions and just kind of gets lost along the way. Like, I love that story. Yeah. So
awesome.
I'm kind of fine with her being on top right now, you know.
Who knows? That for some people's
She's
games that
super
may
interesting.
change.
I mean, yeah, I mean she's gotten a lot of visitors over the last, 12 to 15 months. I think many people have come down trying to like steal the light of Elturel and all that stuff, you know, like as one does, one does, you know.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, it's true. But I really like redemption arcs too, which is funny because I'm always going on and on about how much I like the villains. But having the villain like find their way back into the light, and not just my unlimited power light, but you know, the actual light, you know, is always a great story beat, I think.
Mm-hmm. So you guys are Erin, you mentioned the Blood War.
Yeah.
Like, so for people who haven't played Descent into Avernus or looked into it, what is the Blood War?
Okay, I have big feelings about the Blood War.
Oh.
So so this is another thing where I'm not 100% up to date on everything, but I had a theory about the Blood War that I know I told developers, and some of them really liked it, and so maybe this may be canon and may not be that exciting anymore. The Blood War is the endless war between the Abyss and the Nine Hells, between the demons and the devils, between chaotic evil and lawful evil. And I think early on, especially, it was like, well, they're opposed because chaotic, lawful. But wars don't get fought just because you don't like each other. There's always something else in there, right? Mm-hmm. So my take on it is, then this is where I think Avernus fits really nicely, is that the devils conduct their evil within existing structures, right? They want everything to sort of persist because that's how they get things done, and they sort of funnel souls in. They want those souls, so do the demons, but they need all this to stay put because that's the whole system, right? Mm-hmm. Like, we corrupt people by using what they have built themselves, right? And the devils want to come in, or the demons want to come in and just destroy everything to its component molecules. And so you could liken this to the devils are the wolves, humans are the sheep, people are the sheep, and the demons are the wolves. The devils are the shepherds, right? So the shepherds are defending the sheep from the wolves. At the end of the day, the shepherds are still going to eat the sheep.
You might get a haircut out of the deal first, though.
Exactly, right? You could probably get some stuff in there, but you know, for sheep, like, really, it's a lot better. And so that, I think, if you put the devils in between, is sort of a defense point, right? And so Avernus is this place where the demons can come in, but it is also established as a place where, you know, people can enter. So it is almost exists as a spot between the demons and the material realm. I know when at one point in one of my books, I have a scene in the Fugue plane where the devils show up and sort of say, hey, come with me. You want to come to this plane? It's the best plane. Avernus is the best plane because really it's the closest. You could almost go home on the weekend, if you play your cards right. Anyway, that's my feelings about the Blood War.
the Lower East Side of it. Yeah, and now it's decidedly Mad Maxy out in Avernus. Like it's there's been an uptick in war machines.
I actually were war machines like a thing before Descent into Avernus? Was that like a popular thing in there? You guys know
I
about?
don't remember ever seeing that.
I feel
but
like it
sounds
wasn't.
bonkers and
Yeah.
crazy.
You know, chat's going crazy with us right now, like banging their hands on the keyboards. But I'm like, no, I feel like that was fairly new. Because if Mech Warrior in Hell had been an option before, I feel like I'd have heard about that. So yeah,
I definitely feel like I would have put a couple of those on the horizon.
Though you also made
a
made a point when we were talking about this ahead of time, which, believe it or not, internet, we do discuss these things in advance before we abandon all of that for tangent after tangent. But you displaced in quality wood. I'm just telling you, we don't know that the guy's not half treant. We don't know that the guy's not half treant.
Ed Greenwood tells me otherwise. It's a rumor.
It's true.
Yeah.
You mentioned about the fact that it's like death is permanent for some of the fighters in the Blood War.
Mm-hmm.
What were you saying about that? Because I don't want to steal your interesting insight there.
In fact,
I actually don't totally remember what I said.
It kind of didn't make sense for them to be fighting here because half of them will die and come back, and the other half of them will die and stay dead.
I don't know that this was me. This is interesting. I don't remember saying it. Or I've just lost my train of thought. But yes, there is the fact that if you are all fighting on your plane, like you die on in Avernus, if you're a double, you're done. And if you're a demon, you come back from the abyss. So you're right. Like that's not an ideal place to be having your war.
You go back to your respawn point. Yeah, I mean that might be why the demons are doing it, because it's just like these endless crashing waves. I mean,
and they do have the numbers, right? They absolutely have the numbers.
I also like the subtle implication that both the demons and the devils have as much influence in the planes as they've got in the midst of this nigh endless war with each other.
Yeah.
That if they were able to just put to the side and be like, let's just go eat everybody, they could, Yeah. So that it's like even down in the depths of it, there's still this conflict that kind of keeps them at bay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which I think too is that comes also down into that methods thing. Like I think that the way that devils do things, it is like we are going to take a measured amount every time so that we keep this going. Whereas demons are like, no, burn this one out and then we'll go to the next one. And then we'll burn that one up and then we'll go to the next one. Because I think when I think of demons, I don't think of them having long-term plans, right?
Yeah.
Like they are destruction and they are hunger, whereas devils have that lawful piece, which I think lends itself to like, no, we're going to do this carefully. So there is a little bit of that method difference is going to always come down to, even if they could work together, like it would fall apart immediately because they can't they can't have the meeting where they set the agenda.
Right. They're like, can we just kill all humans? And you're like, no. And they're like, meeting's adjourned.
Where will the more humans come from?
Yeah.
You're like, there's probably another plane, right? It can hit another plane of humans, I'm sure.
There's like a lot of them. We checked. We've been to Sigil. They're all over the place. God. Let's just one aside, my internet's being a little wonky. Should I disappear? I'll be right back. But even like you take a character like Bell, who again recently added to Idle Champions, is a tactical genius, right? And that was kind of his whole thing. He was trying to play this multi-dimensional game of chess where Zariel's kind of this like rage-filled wrecking ball person that just kind of wants to go through and smash things, which makes sense when you look at it from one of them being an archdevil, this creature of consummate law in its own way, which I want to talk about that more in a second, and Zariel being this rampaging crusader who also, while a creature of law, existed to eradicate her enemies. And like that's like she wasn't trying to make use of them, she was trying to wipe them out. And I like that idea. And I also like the idea that most of Bell's art very much looks like Tim Curry from Labyrinth.
Mephistopheles also hits that.
Mm-hmm.
They're like,
chilling,
we're
chilling
just
on the
gonna do like
throne.
slight versions on this. I think that's cool. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say just one other like mechanical thing for those of you that are playing, 5th edition. Bell can cast Fireball at will as a legendary action. Let me tell you something; those add up quick.
Oh my god!
Because he can cast Fireball at will, and he can legendary action Fireball. So that's like roughly 4 fireballs around.
Yep.
You put some respect in the group really fast with that. When they're like, yay, we do a thing, it's like, cool, Fireball, well, I save, okay, great. I'm like, statistically speaking, you're gonna eat at least 2 of these. You might eat all 4. Yeah. And he is a fearsome foe, highly recommended. But yes, Erin, you were about to say something else, sorry.
I think that difference too plays both with like what Avernus is, and then into the greater structure of sort of the 9 hells and all of the princes of the hells, the archdevils, with Asmodeus at the top, because I think Asmodeus works best as like the sort of consummate controller of all of this, and that they're like whatever chaos exists within the system, like it exists to preserve the stability of the system. So swapping, like letting Zariel take over or letting Bell take over almost reflects like, how is this war sitting? Do we need to go in and just like blast everybody? Do we clear the field? Then guess what? Zariel's in charge.
Do the Etch-a-Sketch restart. Just shake it
Exactly.
all.
Do we need to like slow down and play some, multi-dimensional war chess? Okay. Oops. Zariel, guess what? Everybody turned on you.
I appreciate that that makes Asmodeus the architect of all of this. Like I just have him sitting in like a white suit somewhere watching screens of all of this play out. And it's funny because I've been doing a lot of research with him, because not only did he show up in the comic, he showed up in the stream, and they're like how lavish and extravagant he is while still being fundamentally wounded. I'm like, that's interesting symbolism. And the fact that he pretends that he knows everything, even when he super doesn't.
Oh, yeah.
I've had so much fun with that, where they're like, ha, of course you did this. It is as I've foreseen. They're like, how'd he know? And on the inside, I'm like, he super didn't. But,
I think that's a really important attribute. Like Asmodeus should come off as he knows everything. He has plans for plans. And anything that breaks, he's ready for it. But would you really know if he didn't? Because
he's not going to tell you.
Right?
I mean,
he is a super powerful being, so I believe multiple layers, but not all of the layers.
I almost played him like a Bond villain. Like at one point, I straight up just had him put the players in a dining room while they waited for something to happen, and he was just like, "They'll be fine. I'm sure they're not going to construct a plan to stop me. They're just lowly level 12s. What do they know?"
I've played him as something similar, almost like a loving free range farmer. And he's like,
love it.
He's like, you are adorable. Here's some grain. Run as far as you want. It's fine. When I need you, I will find you. Cool. Yeah.
So in Farida, who's in my books and in the game, is actually both Farida and Havilar are chosen of Asmodeus. Not because they particularly like him, but because this is one of those things where like he had a plan. The plan broke in a way that he expected it to break, so he broke it back in a different way. But when I think because he's a god in a novel, like he is not showing up like a character in the same way. He sort of shows up as a sort of a dream form, and like a vision kind of thing. And this is a place where, again, like where a plan is sort of like about to shatter, and he's like, my dear, it's not going to, and that's your job. Because if Asmodeus falls, the Nine Hells collapses, right? Like he is the linchpin. And this whole system works because everybody's trying to get to the top, and everybody pushes each other down, like as they climb up. So everybody more or less
like
stays
crabs.
in place.
I don't want the crabs make it.
Right?
Oh no!
I
think my internet might have wonked.
You seem fine here.
Oh no! There's another nugget for you, Treavor. Oh no!
Oh yep, there he goes.
There he went. I was the same as last time. He said, "Oh, I froze," and then he froze.
Yeah, he was predicting his own thing. Yeah, and I'm sure I'll hear all of this later in the audio. So B-Dave will be back in a moment. Aaron,
Yeah.
what else you got about Asmodeus or Avernus?
Oh, look, he came back
he's
without disappearing. Yay!
Oh my God, that made it the
Again,
thing work.
of
and
course, I knew that was going to happen.
What is
Yep.
V. Dave Walters if not the champions of lore Asmodeus?
To make a good Asmodeus.
literally. Well, but I want to like more generally. This whole concept of like law and chaos is interesting to me because I realize fifth edition of the D&D in its current state has gotten more away from alignment. Like it still exists, but it's more of an afterthought. But I mean, for a very long time, this is kind of how I've looked at the game. That people would think that it's like, oh, if you're lawful good, you're the consummate Boy Scout, you're awful good. And if you're chaotic evil, you're just this cackling villain that just makes no sense and just does things at random. And I'm like, no, that's not how it is. It is an axis. In the axis from good to evil is from selflessness to selfishness. And from law to chaos is someone that values order versus someone that values disorder, basically, in random chance. And a lot of people can fall on that spectrum. In the idea that you could still have quintessentially selfish entities, which is what the demons and the devils are, that still have this not just diametrically opposed vision of how reality should be, but are willing to war endlessly to impose it. It's interesting to me because you don't have that on the divine side, like up in Celestia. Like there's not this endless beef between the lawful spirits or lawful divinities and the chaotic divinities, which I think is a neat way to see that play out practically, which has like kind of a greater philosophical commentary.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Yeah. Like the selfishness to selflessness really defines that's how it's going to go down.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The only other Asmodeus thing I was going to say is that using Asmodeus as a god, not just as an archdevil, because the way it works in the realms, of course, is that as you worship gods, they gain power. So if you have a god with power, somebody is worshiping them. And probably it's not just the people chanting around an altar and sacrificing an innocent, although they do their part. So when I had Asmodeus like talking to Farida, like what he presented himself as is, I am a god of happiness. I am a god who says you should do what you want to do, right? Like let me give you the easy path, which is also mirrored in I have Lorcan explain the difference between demons and devils, and he says the demons will drag you screaming to the abyss. All we do is we open the doors in front of you and you walk right in. And so it is that sense of like that sort of god of sin, god of transgression, but it is a sort of more of a god of selfishness, a god of like doing the thing that's best and easiest for you. And the more you do that, the easier it is to open those doors that lead you down this path to where he's gotcha. But I loved playing with that stuff. I think that's fun.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I mean, again, it's back to that slippery slope of good intentions. Like all this year, most of the stories that I've been telling, especially informed by did I freeze again? Oh no, okay. Most of the stories that I've been telling. No, yeah, I'm like, no, you were just paying very close attention. I was like, no, I hit Erin with a stun again. Most of the stories I've been telling this year, especially against the geopolitical backdrop that we find ourselves in, because these stories exist in a context, because the storytellers exist in a context, has been a lot of playing with this idea of the intention. I've had, and I think I shared this with you before, I had stories where there was lawful good, like Hyperions, which are like good giants. They're like beautiful and all, and had arrived to wipe out these evil communities of like orcs and goblins, and the heroes show up and they're like, what are you doing? They're like, we're gonna go wipe out those evil things. And they're like, did they do anything? They're like, well, I mean, they're evil. And then the heroes are like, well, but they didn't do anything, and it
strike.
Exactly, and it puts the players in the interesting perspective. Where then I had I've done one with Null, which is Tiamat in Bahamut's brother, and the Raven Queen, both asking the players for help because Death is missing. Something's happened to Death. Nothing's dying. And even though they're gods of death, they're kind of like, yes, but here's why you need Death. And then the players have to go, like, you know, essentially unleash this archetypical force on, you know, on trillions of lives across the plains, because it was still the right thing to do, even though those aren't the good deities. Like, I love subverting the tropes like that, in that sense that, I mean, I think we're at a point now that just, I'm the lawful good elven paladin and therefore I'm always correct is not a thing anymore.
Yeah.
But before we get too far away from Asmodeus, Splotch the Gray actually has a pretty good question.
We ever get far away from Asmodeus?
That's fair.
No, I mean, he's not that far away from us. Trust me.
He's right there, right behind me.
I don't have that many, so bad. I keep forgetting.
So Splotch says, would a devil god become more powerful the more you are afraid of them?
I don't think I would not do that for Asmodeus, because I think that it isn't about your negative feelings; it's about your selfish feelings. Like about your sort of like, he's scary and terrible, but also he is so beautiful, right? He's overwhelming. And I think that just being like, loses that and sort of takes away that piece of like making choices that seem like they're good but are fundamentally broken.
I also don't feel like fear powers him, because if nothing else, fear is not something we've seen the fiends in pursuit of. We've seen the fiends in pursuit of manipulation, and just getting you to do what they want and getting, you know, moving the pieces around on the board. I don't think it's just scaring people.
That brings up an interesting point too. If you look at that sort of demon devil mechanic, right? Like the devils want you to act more human, right? They want to exploit your humanness that builds structures and creates in-groups and out-groups and makes systems that have transgressive points so that you feel like you need help navigating it, right? That you need to take this power to get through this, or to turn it against your enemies, or, you know, anything like that. Whereas the demons almost want you to act more animalistic, right? A demon god, I would absolutely believe in fear powering. Because that one is more like impulse and like there's no sort of thought behind it necessarily. If you do that sort of thing, it should end up like, Gratz is a fascinating topic that probably should go for another episode. But I honestly think Gratz functions as a broken understanding of a mammalian dominance hierarchy, right? So it pretends it has structure, but it's actually all about impulse and kind of decision making without any thought around it, without any consideration. So I would say fear is a demon god kind of thing. Except I don't think there are any demon gods, but wait a little bit, maybe there will be.
Yeah.
See, Asmodeus is like, no, see, but that's not a god.
Fear leads to anger leads to hate, and hate leads to suffering, right? I especially think that's interesting, because you would think, all things being equal, as a currency, fear would be pretty easy to come by. And this might be because, remember when we talked about Arl a couple of weeks back, about like, why would anyone worship an evil god? And it's like, so she doesn't come and eat you, you know? So I think that might manifest in that sort of way, that fear is still couched in respect. Like, you know, ooh, Oral, don't take us, you know.
That's kind of always how I've played like cultists, like especially for like Orcus. Like it's not that they're doing it specifically for power, but they're doing it because, like, oh, if I praise Orcus, who I think is obviously going to win this, I won't get killed, I won't get turned into an undead. They have this perception that worshiping them puts them on the good side and they'll be fine.
I think another piece in there too, where like a more direct worship of Asmodeus for someone who's not like, you know, necessarily, you know, cut the body on the altar, is that if you are somewhere where there are demon incursions, where that's like a common thing, like you might choose to worship Asmodeus to protect you from these scarier things.
Oh,
right?
wow.
You can plan ahead for a devil because there's a system there. but a demon's gonna come out of the dark and rip you to pieces. And so maybe you're like I used this too in see, part of me is like, I shouldn't spoil my books because some of these people have never read them. There is a big battle where
That's true.
The good guys end up with sort of like a devil cavalry fighting nominally on their side because the bad guys have demons and the devils are like, let's mess up some demons. And so you have this temporary like truce that you can trust because the devils are going to hold to their word. Now they might also kind of like convince you to take on some additional little contractual amendments. They may use that
Twilight
chaos.
Zone monkey paw school of,
Totally.
of negotiation.
But you make a deal with the demon, and I don't think there's any reason to believe that that's going to stick.
Yeah. You can always count on an untrustworthy man to be untrustworthy, basically. It's Oh, go ahead.
I had one here that pertains to this. Luca Trupa says some regular deities in Faerun, like Oriel and Umberly, do intentionally inspire fear in order to garner worship, if I recall.
Yeah.
So,
those are some of the ones we mentioned when we were talking about Arl too, like those deities you worship with this sort of propitiatory, apotropaic kind of sense, where it's like, keep your big scary powers over there.
Mm-hmm. Like,
why would you worship
want you to be
winter,
afraid.
Right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily say that
again,
fear is the thing that's powering them, but it's a motivator to worship them.
Yeah, I think that's where I'd put it.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because fear in and of itself is not that difficult to come by. I mean, otherwise, like the Tarrasque is like the greatest god around. That it's like I'm just going to show up and knock over a city, you know, and turn and go, you know.
I'm sure that somewhere had been done, but like a society that worships the Tarrasque because they think like when it wakes up, it'll leave them alone.
I mean, if it hasn't, I'm about to do it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'm like, now you've brought this upon everyone, Erin of the Thousand Evans. I want you to know this.
I read
this was your doing.
For my son and his friends, and one of those kids is obsessed with the Tarrasque, and he's constantly like, can we fight the Tarrasque? And I'm like, literally, the Tarrasque will kill you all in one hit. Like, he's like, I bet I can take it. I'm like, no, buddy.
You can't though. Like I've seen your sheet. Trust me. Yeah, I got no reason to lie to you, little bro. Yeah,
just do it, kill all of them, and then be like, and then you woke up and
I used to run games at a bookstore, and for one of them, I ended up having to be the only one there, so I had 12 kids at my table. And I decided that since I was going to have 12 people, I was going to do a big bombastic ending where basically Tiamat and a bunch of dragons showed up, but it was an illusion. And it was really great because at the very beginning, this like 12-year-old kid gets a table and he just says, I want you to know one thing. I hate Tiamat. And I went, this is perfect. Oh my God. And this kid lost his freaking mind when I put Tiamat down. And that was one of the most fun games.
Okay, I love that.
See, that's the thing. Everybody talks all this greasiness until she shows up, you know, until the 5 heads are there and they're like, what? I'm sorry. Huh?
I couldn't hear you quite over there. What was that?
I thought I heard you. Yeah. All 5 heads. They're like, I got 10 ears. You'd think I'd have heard that clearer. What? Yeah.
Garwar comes in with the. Oh, sorry. Did you have something else you wanted to add to that? No.
Yeah, I mean inevitably, but no, please go ahead.
Garwar came with a question that had to do with kind of the alignment conversation. Is someone / something evil if it hasn't acted in an evil manner? Is the thought / beliefs, or is it actions that make something or someone evil in D&D?
I mean, like, just drop a huge philosophical conundrum on us.
I'm like, let's do it. Yeah. No, because nothing is neither good or bad, but thinking makes it so. That's Hamlet, kids. In the framework of the game, arguably the framework of life, but I would put that to the side for a second. In the framework of the game, it is an action-based game. It's what you do. It's not what you intend. It's what you do. Also not what you think. And that's why I wholly reject this idea of evil races. And have been a part of some of the recent edits and things that have changed some of that. That is like you're bad because of what you were born as, because that's got a lot of problematic implications. So it's what you do. It is not innate. Yeah.
Like I see these things sometimes like, well, if you're players and you come across like a bunch of gnolls. Like, you should be allowed to just kill them. And I'm like, if I'm a player and you put me in front of a bunch of gnolls and you're like, okay, kill them, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I want a motivation besides I like genocide. So I'm definitely in the action-based, even just for the purposes of the game. Like, I don't particularly find it. I don't think that's fun, personally. But setting aside all other moral conundrums, it's a game, and that's not fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you know, obviously there's a proud tradition of being a murder hobo in D&D. One that I myself have lived into many times. But it's true.
For the gnolls to be like, wasn't it great eating those babies earlier? And then you have no problems.
Right.
Like,
you're like, oh, gnolls, okay.
Or they could be nice gnolls and you could be friends with them. They could be like your friend pets. It could happen.
Well, you know, just from a storytelling perspective, you all, but at your tables and in your stories and things like that. Everyone should want something, and intelligent creatures should behave intelligently. If the reason why your gnolls are your antagonists is because they're gnolls, well, that's kind of lazy. You know, I mean, they're hunting. They need food. They're running from something. They need defense against something. Maybe they just don't like people. I mean, you can still have villains that are villains, that you're like, that's the bad guy. But they should still have a motivation that makes like external sense, that you're like, oh, I see why they did that. Because for the most part, you know, the idea that it's like, I'm going to blow up Waterdeep because I feel like it. I mean, like, you know, unless your bad guy is the Joker and your story's set in the 1960s, that's not enough of a motivation.
Yeah.
You know, like, I'm gonna blow up Waterdeep because my sister went there to become a priestess and never returned. And I hate everyone in Waterdeep and I hate everyone in Skullport and I want everyone to die. Yeah. You know, like that's
oh yeah.
Now you have a motivation.
Think of it, because I always love doing the villain thinks they're the hero of their own story. Like, imagine someone that hated Skullport so much that they were going to blow it up and as a result destroy Waterdeep. Like, that's fascinating. I love it. There we go.
Yep, because then you're on the hook and you're like, ooh, now I got to save Skullport. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, good.
I was gonna say, shout out to Keith Amon with his books. The villains, the monsters know what they're doing. Live to tell the tale. All his books are great. He's a great guy.
Fantastic. I've only talked to him on Twitter, but he's a great guy. Anything else that we want before we get into questions? Anything you guys want to talk about Avernus, devil, demon wise?
I would just say that, just like we were talking about the fact that the lore has changed over time, because these worlds are like only semi-static and then they shift a lot, and then that's semi-static and then it shifts a lot. By the same token, you know, at your table, if it makes more sense for Bell to be in charge, Bell can be in charge.
Yeah.
You know, or, you know, Zariel to win, or I think you'd be hard pressed to have somebody topple Asmodeus. But again, story hook. Maybe they team up and topple him, and he comes to the players to help reinstate him because it's necessary, like Erin was saying.
If you had it, or like, if you could figure out a game where you got all of the Archdevils to work together, that would be, first of all, wow. I don't even know how you do that, but I'm sure there's a way. There's a way to do anything.
Yeah.
Challenge accepted.
Right? Like, that's fast. Like, I mean, getting down to like we didn't really dig into the deeper levels of the different Archdevils, but part of it is that some of them really hate each other, right? Like Levistus and Glazia never gonna get along. So what could you find that would make Levistus and Glazia side together, right? Glazia hates a lot of people, actually. Mephistopheles hates a lot of people.
I feel like Glazia hates everybody.
Pretty much. She likes Fierna. She and Fierna are buddies. She hates Belial, and so depending on who's in charge in yours, I want to believe. I don't know how she feels about Zariel. Part of me is like, I want to believe she likes Zariel, but I don't know. I love.
I mean, like they're having like sleepovers and stuff. Like they do like manicures and things.
She's like, you know what? Like, you're the new girl in town. Come on. We have a squad.
Oh, I love that shade of bloodline.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah, your head is so shiny, and I love your goth kid mascara.
It's a little like Mean Girls. It's like, okay, we hate Levistus. And we were pink on Thursdays.
I want to run.
True.
I want to run a Hell's game that's just Mean Girls. Oh my god!
I mean, are they not the meanest of girls?
I know.
So you guys are joking. Season 3 of A Darkened Wish, a big chunk of it is down there, and like I have to do all of this now.
Oh
Like
my
I mean,
God.
they're gonna come in and find like a demon, like a devil, archdevil slumber party.
Oh my Gladia Saints. No. What I love about Gladia, just as a sidebar, is like so she's Asmodeus' daughter. So in early stuff, she was just a princess. She was just in the background. I think the original ruler of Melbolge was Moloch. I forget what happened to Moloch. And then it was Malagard, the Hag Countess, which is kind of a cool thing because she wasn't an archdevil. She was Hag. And now she messed up. And so the sixth layer is Malagard. It's her body in constant rotting pain, which is gross and wonderful. And so you have Gladia, who's been discounted for so long, and now she's kind of got this fairly powerful seat. And there's this combination of like extreme scheming because she wants that top throne, absolutely. But she's not stupid enough to go trying to overthrow her father before she is absolutely positive she can. And at the same time, like this deep-seated anger at all these people who messed with her, right? Like, I think she and Memon had a thing, and now that's not good. She hates him. And Levistus is terrible. He killed her mother. Belial's mean to Fierna, or, that's awkward. Right. Mephistopheles thinks he's going to get that throne. So there's this balance between that sort of petty internal desire for power and that scheming big brain, like Asmodeus kind of thing that I find delightful and interesting.
I like it.
Also,
One
she
of
has
the
hell
things that-
wasps, which are super cool.
I love it.
Thanks, I hate it. Yeah, that was one of the things that I like also so much about Asmodeus is, and you hear me alternate between Asmodeus and Asmodeus all the time because I'm from Arkansas. I'm not even supposed to know how to say these words. He has 10 manifestations. So he's physically on all 9 planes all at once, and he's also in a 10th place, which usually is implied to be the prime material plane, but it could be anywhere. So I also like the idea that he just occasionally rolls in on people and he's like, you don't know what Zariel's saying about you, do you?
Yes.
You know?
Oh my god.
Yeah.
He's the real Regina George.
I love that. Yeah.
Yep. Stirring that pot. Yep. Mm-hmm.
I like that idea too, that like there's a lot about the Hells that is sort of balanced on propaganda and gossip and rumor.
Yes.
And then there is a certain amount that some things are, because like if Asmodeus says this is true, you better also say it's true, right? Like that's the system. And so you look up the chain of command and you're like, well, the archdevil I serve says it's true, so it's true, but that doesn't agree with Asmodeus, so what do I do? You make up a reason.
It's one thing is always weird to me that I think a lot about is like the destiny of souls in the Forgotten Realms, that it's almost like this like salmon spawning, because you know how when the salmons make their way up the river, there's like 6 different like patches of danger they have to go through. Like there's a place where all the bears are, and then all the wolves are, and then there's the eagles, and then there's like the rapids and all these things that they have to like get up to their spawning grounds. And it's like, you die, which is problematic in and of itself. Then you got to go through the Shadowfell, and there's like a bunch of things that are going to eat you in there. And then, the Raven Queen may or may not let you come out the other side. And then you kind of end up in Avernus, and then maybe you're like a soul coin or yeah.
Let's see what the chat's got going on before we wrap this show up. Look, a Troopa says, have y'all delved into the Planescape book Planes of Law? There are a lot of interesting stuff on Avernus in that doesn't crop up in Descent. Have either of you checked out that book?
I haven't looked at Planescape books in a really long time.
Yeah, I mean, in times long past. I don't know. We both just took a year off Perkins' life there by being like, Planescape. He's like, that's my revenge for all the times you've hurt me, Chris Perkins. That's my revenge.
Well, Chris,
Yeah.
I love Planescape. Please love me. Let's see. Rainbow Smash 707.
Hey, again, I lived through a journey into Avernus with him with 1 hit point. So
It's not going to stop me from kissing.
I've been through this.
Rainbow Smash 707 says, also, I would happily just live in an Avernus if B Dave was flexing with B Dave's flexing was the source of light. Where does light come from in Avernus? It's just B Dave.
It's me.
It's just B Dave holding up a shirt of himself.
Just full Randy Orton. That's it. Yeah, that's it. Right. Perfect. That's if they ever expand to a 10th hell, that'll be what it is. Yes. I'm for it.
Dusty Hill says permadeath is such a bore, and I'll add this because I know him. Yo. So Rainbow Smash 707.
I will just say, but it's interesting though. That's one of the things again about D&D is past a certain point, death is no longer an obstacle; it's an inconvenience.
Yes.
So when you're like, oh, please don't die, please don't die, please don't die, then you get to like level 12ish, and then you're like, I mean, okay, like hopefully don't die, but you know, like whatever.
Would be kind of a bump. We have to stop and fix it.
It's gonna. I mean, those diamonds are expensive. Yeah, right. And then, but then you come back again where you're like, no, you'll be eradicated. It's like it's not. Disintegrate doesn't leave a body. You can still come back with true resurrection. But I'm mixing up. I've played so many editions of this game, but I think it was just previous editions of Disintegrate weren't just you don't leave a body, it's like you can't come back. That's what made it like so much more frightening.
So like this is a sidebar. So my I guess it's my only short story in Forgotten Realms is in a book called Realms of the Dead, and it's called The Resurrection Agent, and it is about like a spy that you hire, and she goes in when you know someone is doing something but you like kind of need them to enact the plan and you need to be able to catch them. So like there's an assassination plot or you have a traitor and you need proof. And so what they would do is they cut off her little finger and they keep it in a box and they send her in and she finds out the information and she gets caught and killed. And then they trigger the resurrection on her finger, which is back in Am, and she pops up and she says, okay, it's this, they're going to strike like this.
Wow.
And so you can catch them this way. And the story starts where the spy master is dead and they're trying to get her body back to Termish, and they find out one of the bodies did not get destroyed afterwards and got turned into a white, and there's some stuff with vampires.
That sounds awesome.
Maybe that's the plan when you start running into Disintegrate. So everybody just cuts off their little finger, puts it in a box, in a safety deposit box. So you can come back, you have one piece left.
Oh,
that is terrifyingly effective. Yeah, what's it? It's not Doppelganger. It's not Simulacrum. Is it Simulacrum? There's the same thing. There in previous editions, there was you had a duplicate, and it's the same thing. You're like, I'm just gonna like let him chill in the inn here with copies of all my gear while I go out and like go face first into something.
Yeah. Let's see here. Dusty Hill also says fear is just spicy respect for demons. I like that. Splotch the
Caliente.
Yeah. Splotch the Great says so. Auriel equals drill sergeant, and Asmodeus equals company CEO. That explanation for what devils want makes sense to me. Thank you. That's pretty much true.
100%.
Let's see. Oh, this I like this one. Kid Like 101 says, can Asmodeus even be overthrown? I mean, that realm was practically built from him, and he has all of his fingers in the pies now. But Lord Talon came in and said, well, Asmodeus overthrew Zargon the Returner, so why not overthrow him?
I personally think the way you get Asmodeus is it's almost like a crab changing shells. You'd have to lure him into something better. Like if he thought he really had a shot at the prime material plane or Celestia or Sigil in and of itself may or may not be valuable. I guess theoretically as a staging point to all the reality, maybe, but like you'd have to lure him out with that carrot.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm sitting here going like, what would be Asmodeus's like prime choice for a retirement plane? I don't know. Like that's a huge can of worms. But if you could be like, what if you had this? I think
always
he'd be
wanted
bored
to
with anything that wasn't too complex.
Oh.
Sorry, Trevor, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I think he's aware of the fact that the hells kind of suck. Like I said, he himself is in constant pain, but he also is a being of consummate evil. So I think just like chilling on a beach with a drink with a tiki umbrella is not necessarily his jam. I think if he could overtly rule the prime material plane, I think he'd be all right with that. But I also feel like he wouldn't necessarily give up Avernus. He would just annex the prime material plane personally. But
the game that I'm running right now, I did have Asmodeus at one point try to overtake the material plane. But the game that I've always wanted to run was just to blatantly rip off Neil Gaiman. Because in the Sandman comics, at one point, Lucifer invites Morpheus to hell, and it's like, I hate you so much, I'm going to do the one thing to you that I could think of that would ruin you, and he gives him the key to hell. Oh. And I've always wanted to have a party where Asmodeus was like, I hate you guys a bunch, I think you suck, here's the worst thing I could think to do to you, and he just gives them the keys to hell.
My job, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck. You see how hard this job is.
It's like, I'll wait 5 minutes and then I'm gonna come clear your corpses out.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that'd be a fun one.
You immediately have like 8 Archdevils. Like, oh, guess what? I think I could topple you.
Mm-hmm. And they're kind of right.
Yeah. That's how you clear house all the way down, because then they just start killing each other. Except then, you know, you end up having little like wars break out, and that spills over into the prime material plane. It's a mess. It's just a mess.
Yeah.
What did you do,
it's true.
Treavor?
Let's look at that. Nobody even like appreciates Asmodeus and all his good works.
Mm-hmm.
The
last one I'm going to say is Garwar says, I'm just going to get that logo tattooed on me so I'm always dressed appropriately.
Dude shirtless.
Yeah.
All true.
But that is unfortunately all the time that we have for lore this week. As you know, we actually got more lore in here than normal. We did.
We actually did our job.
Yeah, we did it. Go us.
Yay. Well, wait, hang on. We did forget one thing. I have to say that, and then we'll have ticked all the boxes. So yes, in the October 7th update for Idle Champions, if you haven't played it yet, Bell did make his appearance. Also added in Archdevils, Lemures, Maragon, and Abyssal Remorez in Bone Whelks. Yeah. All went up. Love Bone Whelks. Yep.
Erin, B, Dave, where can people find you, and what awesome things are you working on?
You can find me on Twitter at Erin and Evans. You can also see me on Dungeon Scrawlers on Wednesday nights at 6:30, where I play Cecilia, who's definitely not a warlock. Also, just if you're curious, we just put up the YouTube videos for the Call Contract Murders, which is the Dragonborn dating game we were talking about before. So if you were like, what in the heck is that? You can watch it.
Has a great ending.
B. Dave Walters, I like to be anywhere that Erin of the Thousand Evans is. I say I'm not gonna let that go. I'm never going to let that go. I want you to know. Like it's never gonna let it go. Say words about things. I'm all over the place. Ascension on Thursdays, Silver and Steel on Tuesdays, and again, season 3 of A Darkened Wish. Episode 2 will come up this Thursday at 5 Pacific. The first 2 seasons are up on YouTube. Again, it is a transmedia story that connects to the comic. This season is what happens after the comic ends. So, going to be the end of the road for our heroes.
I love it. You can find me on Difficulty Class Podcast every Friday and on Twitter at the Treavor. Again, there's an A in there. Thank you to Jay for moderating in the chat, and thank you to Codename Entertainment for letting us sit here and talk, crazy things about D&D for an hour. If you missed this, if you missed some of the show, or you just hopped in now and you're like, oh no, I missed everything, you can listen to it at 2 p.m. on your favorite podcast services. And remember that you can write in with your own questions to Champions of Lore. I did this without even looking at the thing, and now I'm screwed up. Champions of Lore at codenameentertainment.com. I got that right. Also, this Friday is the CNE 24-hour Extra Life stream. Griddle Champions and Garwar stream are going to be postponed, but you can come hang out, have some fun, and if you can, donate to an awesome cause. So please check that out on Friday. Starts at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, I believe. If you are live with us right now, be sure to come back at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for Improvised Champions. And if you're listening to us later, we'd love for you to be here next week with us in the chat. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and Champions out.